why the Czech ZB-30 is called the most successful machine gun of the 20th century. Picture this. The world is tearing itself apart. World War I, with its muddy trenches, deafening artillery, and soldiers fighting for every inch of ground. In the middle of this chaos, a game-changing idea was born, the idea of a light machine gun. A weapon one soldier could carry, but powerful enough to dominate the battlefield. Enter the Czech ZB-30, a weapon that wasn't the most produced, or maybe even the absolute best, but still became the most commercially successful light machine gun of the 20th century. This bad boy was exported to or built under license in 24 countries, from the British Empire to Iran and China. Its close cousin, the British brand gun, stayed in service with the UK until the 1970s. So what made the ZB-30 such a rock star? Let's dive into this epic story of grit, genius, and global impact. In this deep dive, I'm going to unpack the ZB-30's incredible journey, from its creation in a small European nation to its worldwide fame. We'll explore its design, its role in wars, and why it was a total game changer. I'll throw in some economic insights, historical context, and my own thoughts to keep you hooked. This isn't just a story about a gun. It's about innovation, ambition, and leaving a mark on history. Buckle up because this ride is going to be wild. Chapter 1. The birth of the light machine gun. To get why the ZB-30 became a legend, we need to rewind to the early 20th century. World War I, 1914 to 1918, was a brutal wake-up call for armies everywhere. Heavy machine guns like the Maxim or Vickers were beasts on the battlefield, but they were a pain to lug around. You needed a whole crew to move and operate them, and in the fast-moving chaos of war, that was a problem. Soldiers wanted something lighter, something one guy could carry but still pack a serious punch. The idea of a light machine gun was a no-brainer, but making it work was a nightmare. Early attempts, like the French Chow Chat, the British Lewis, or the American Bar, Browning automatic rifle, were rough around the edges. The Chow Chat jammed constantly. The Lewis was too heavy, and the Bar felt more like a beefy rifle than a true machine gun. Armies were scratching their heads. How do you make a weapon that's light, reliable, and deadly? That's where a small but scrappy country called Czechoslovakia stepped up to the plate. Formed in 1918 after the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Czechoslovakia was eager to prove itself. And what better way to do that than by building world-class weapons? Enter two brothers, Emanuel and Václav Holek, who would become the masterminds behind the ZB-30. Chapter 2. The Holek brothers and their first swings. Emanuel and Václav Holek weren't just engineers. They were dreamers with a passion for building something extraordinary. Working at the Česká Zbrojovka factory in Prague, they set out to create a machine gun that would change the game. In 1921, they rolled out their first designs, the Praha I and Praha II. These early models were far from perfect, complicated, prone to jamming with their belt-fed systems, but they showed promise. The Czechoslovak army tested every machine gun they could get their hands on, from foreign models to local ones, and decided to bet on the Holek brothers. The road to success was bumpy. The Praha I and Praha II had issues, like a clunky forward-moving barrel system that made them less reliable. But the Holeks weren't the type to give up. By 1923, they unveiled an upgraded version, the Praha I-23. This was a big step forward, introducing a gas-operated system that was simpler and more dependable. Plus, it had a quick-change barrel, a total game-changer. Imagine being in the middle of a firefight and swapping out a red-hot barrel in seconds. That's the kind of innovation that gets soldiers' attention. But there was a catch. The Prague factory couldn't keep up with demand. Production was a mess, and they could barely churn out a handful of guns. So, the operation moved to a bigger factory in Brno, called Zbrojovka Brno. That's when the Holeks went back to the drawing board, ditching the belt feed for a 20-round box magazine that loaded from the top. The result? The ZB-24, followed by the ZB-26, stepping stones to the ZB-30, the weapon that would take the world by storm. Chapter 3. ZB-30, A Star is Born. By 1930, the Holek brothers had hit their stride. The ZB-30 was the culmination of years of trial, error, and genius. So, what made this machine gun so special? Let's break it down in plain English. Gas-operated system. The ZB-30 used the energy from fired bullets' gases to cycle the action. A gas chamber under the barrel powered a long-stroke piston, which kept the gun running smoothly, even in the worst conditions. Quick change barrel. After about 200 rounds, you could swap out the barrel in a flash, keeping the gun firing during intense battles. Versatility. It could switch between full auto and semi-auto modes with a handy selector switch above the grip. Easy to use, even under pressure. Dead simple design. You could take apart the bolt group with just one pin. That's a dream for soldiers in the field who don't have time for complicated maintenance. No fancy barrel fins. Early versions had cooling fins on the barrel, but the Holex figured out they didn't help during firing and just made production harder. So they ditched them. The ZB-30 wasn't just a machine gun. It was a masterpiece of engineering. It was reliable, easy to use, and tough as nails. Soldiers loved it, and soon, the world took notice. Chapter 4. Going Global. The ZB-30's World Tour. Once the ZB-30 was adopted by Czechoslovakia, it didn't stay a local hero for long. The Czechs were smart. They didn't just sell the guns, they sold licenses to build them. From 1926 to 1939, they shipped over 120,000 ZB-26 and ZB-30 machine guns to 24 countries, from Europe to far-off places like China and Iran. Even a mighty British Empire, known for its picky standards, couldn't resist. The Brits got a souped-up version called the ZB-33, which became the blueprint for their iconic Bren gun, named after Brno and Enfield, where it was made. The Bren was so good it stayed in service until the 1970s. Think about that. A gun design in the 1920s was still kicking, but when disco was king and astronauts were walking on the moon. Why did the ZB-30 conquer the world? First, it was crazy reliable. Mud, sand, heat, or freezing cold, it just kept firing. Second, it was affordable, making it a hit with cash-strapped countries. Third, the Czechs were marketing geniuses. They didn't just sell a gun. They sold a symbol of power and progress. Chapter 5. The economics behind the ZB-30's success. To understand why the ZB-30 was a commercial juggernaut, let's talk money. The 1920s and 1930s were tough times. Europe was recovering from World War I, and many countries were broke. Meanwhile, nations in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East were modernizing their armies on a budget. Czechoslovakia, despite being a new kid on the block, had a secret weapon, a strong industrial base inherited from the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Factories in Prague and Brno were top-notch, and labor was skilled but affordable. Historical records show that the arms industry was a big deal for Czechoslovakia's economy. In the 1930s, weapons exports accounted for about 10% of the country's total export revenue. The ZB-30 was a cash cow. Deals like the one with China brought in millions of Czech crowns, equivalent to tens of millions of dollars today. But it wasn't just about the money. The Czechs played the geopolitical game like pros. By selling licenses, they helped other countries build their own arms industries while pocketing profits and influence. It was a win-win. Buyers got cutting-edge weapons and tech, and Czechoslovakia got cash and clout. Chapter 6. The ZB-30 in action. The ZB-30 and its predecessors saw action in every major conflict of the 20th century. From the Spanish Civil War to World War II, from the Korean War to smaller conflicts in Asia and Africa, this gun was everywhere. In China, it held the line against Japanese forces in brutal jungle and desert conditions. In British hands, the Bren became a legend, fighting in North Africa, Europe, and Asia during World War II. Soldiers loved its reliability and accuracy, and even in the 1970s, the Bren was still in reserve. Ready to roll. Chapter 7. Why the ZB-30 still matters in 2025. You might be wondering, why care about a 100-year-old machine gun in 2025? Because the ZB-30 isn't just a weapon, it's a lesson in innovation and grit. Its design is still studied in military academies, and its simplicity inspires modern engineers. The story of the ZB-30 shows what a small country with big dreams can achieve. It's a reminder that you don't need to be the biggest player to make a massive impact. Chapter 8. My take on the ZB-30. The ZB-30 story blows my mind. Two brothers from a tiny country took on the world and won. They didn't let setbacks stop them. They kept tweaking, improving, and pushing forward. It's a reminder that success comes from hard work and refusing to quit. Whether you're an engineer, an entrepreneur, or just someone with a dream, the ZB-30 story is proof that you can achieve greatness if you keep at it. The ZB-30 is more than a machine gun. It's a symbol of ingenuity, resilience, and global impact. From the trenches of World War I to the battlefields of Vietnam, from Czechoslovakia to China, it left its mark on history. In a world of high-tech gadgets, the ZB-30 reminds us that simple ideas, executed with passion, can change everything. Don't miss out. Subscribe to the channel for more epic stories about legendary weapons and the people behind them. Drop a comment below and let us know what you think of the ZB-30. Got ideas for future videos? We're all ears. Let's keep exploring history together.